stay with you on cloud security management. So to do that, let me introduce Prashant Prahlad, our VP of Product for Cloud Native Security Products. Prashant.
Thanks, Yuka. Folks hear me okay? Thank you. Responsible for cloud security products here at Datadog. Just in terms of introduction, I joined Datadog about 5 months ago. Really excited about the opportunity ahead of us, and also excited about the focus this team has on customer and execution. I spent nearly a decade prior to this at AWS, building and operating what became foundational DevOps and security services, and I was also at VMware during the very early days of virtualization before we had cloud. So, as I mentioned, I'm excited about the opportunity because it's a really hard problem to solve, right? As you heard in the keynote today, securing cloud-native applications is quite different from traditional security. So as cloud environments grow, dev and ops teams naturally grow along with it, and this increases the pace of change and the chances of misconfigurations. Now, misconfigurations are accountable for about 90% of security breaches, and they're all avoidable. So you can see how a catastrophic event, potentially, that could have been avoidable, just doesn't get caught. Securing cloud environments, by definition, brings a broader attack surface than what you had in traditional deployments, right? Lastly, what you should understand is it was normal earlier for specialized tools to be built by specialized experts in the area. Security tools focused on network and alerted security teams with a wide range of alerts. And security engineers then decide which ones are important and then dive into that with minimal information. Now, this is just not possible today. When you have an incident or investigate an issue, you have to work across many different teams. So you can't afford these overheads. But let's focus on the state we want to get to, right? And let's start with the most complex and expensive parts of it for a business. It's people and their productivity, right? Developers use a bunch of old and new software to develop something quickly, but may not be aware of code-level vulnerabilities in them. Operations teams get deep observability data to help them monitor and debug issues, but rarely have security context. And security teams, well, they actually can't hire or scale their teams, yet they're responsible for raising the bar in security and securing everything, right? So this setup just cannot work, right? Given the scale and size of the teams and the responsibilities they have and the tools they use. So DevOps teams, the intersection of dev and ops in this slide, use products you heard about today to develop and operate cloud infrastructure. And they're often responsible for securing and remediating security issues. Like the security teams identify these issues and DevOps teams investigate and fix this issue. So they are becoming the natural owners for cloud applications with help from central security teams. So this intersection of DevOps and security, or what people like to call DevSecOps, is quite real. We're seeing that happen in organizations. DevOps team typically nominate a person, a role, a security ambassador role, or a security guardian role to help them manage risks proactively or interface with that central security team when there's an issue. So others recognize the shift too, and security companies will sell this persona a bunch of traditional security tools that were designed for top-down security and ask them to go remediate issues. So they'll sell these tools at a premium and overwhelm you with volume of alerts. Remember, that's what they did traditionally, but rarely provide that context that helps these DevSecOps engineers to go investigate this issue. So what if CISOs and security teams can bring about that security awareness that they want to do in organizations and enable them to proactively handle security issues using tools that they already know, understand, and like? Right? Now, this is the part where Datadog comes in. This is why I'm excited about this opportunity, right? We bring several strengths as we transition to DevSecOps, for lack of a better term. We unify what DevOps and security teams are seeing and acting on, right? Our unified platform shares insights and helps them collaborate better together. And fostering collaboration is nothing new. We've done that with Datadog for DevOps teams in the past, and we need that more than ever now for the security area. Second, we are leveraging the richest context we already have from this observability platform, right? And this is not magical. Our investment in the platform allows us to leverage this data for security issues. And lastly, we are reducing that technical friction or even organizational friction. Like you don't have to convince another team to install an agent. You don't have performance penalties, and you don't have to deploy various other tools or move data around to get this product to actually work, right? And Datadog has 600 plus integrations, which means that if you have a workflow where you use something else, Datadog would seamlessly fit into that, right? As I said before, we've been hard at work at this. We launched Cloud Security Posture Management that helps DevOps teams proactively mitigate their findings. We launched Cloud Workload Security, which is an eBPF-based product that allows you to monitor threats and attacks. Today, we announced the availability of another product called Resource Catalog. Resource Catalog is a very foundational element that allows you to get an inventory of all your cloud assets and their security posture. With CWS, CSPM, these are acronyms of those products out there, and Resource Catalog, they're very important tools that solve very specific problems for our customers. And as Amit mentioned, this is what we do. We find a problem, we build a product to help solve the problem. Now, earlier today, we announced that we're bringing it all together under Cloud Security Management. And Cloud Security Management is what our analyst friends call the Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, or CNAPP for short. Now, If you've dealt with security, we put an acronym to everything, and CNAPP is probably the closest one that fits this. What's unique about what we're doing at Datadog is that you have rich, context-aware CNAPP solution without the friction to install and use it with over 20,000 existing DevOps customers, right? Now, this unified solution brings specific characteristics that allow for collaboration between DevOps and security teams. Let me contextualize this overall and where we stand with cloud security management and security. Now, cloud security management is our newest pillar of cloud security. So as a customer, if you're already monitoring your infrastructure with Datadog, you're able to get cloud security management without having to install any new agents, so zero overhead. If you're an APM customer, you're able to correlate application traces with security insights, threats, and vulnerabilities with application security management, which is our second pillar. And then if you're a log management customer, Cloud SIEM will extend that to gather important security activity from those logs, and that's our third pillar. Now, as you also heard, we're not a slide company, so I'm going to jump right into the demo here and show you what we built. So this is going to be a live demo to make things exciting. So if things don't work, that's all part of the plan. So cloud security management is this. You can see that if I'm a security engineer, I see an active threats in my system that I can analyze, which is very useful. I can look at misconfigured resources in my account, a posture score that tells me how I'm doing, and more importantly, how I'm doing relative to the last 30 days to tell me if I'm improving or getting worse. Now, this is a demo environment, so please don't freak out. Things are getting worse. And also how much of this product is covering your security, your cloud infrastructure, right? So if I was a security analyst, I would be very focused on active threats in the system. If I was a DevOps user, I have this product called Resource Catalog that we launched again in beta today, and I'm going to dive deeper into it. If I was an administrator, I get to see how I'm doing over time. I also get to see, how I'm doing against specific compliance reports. Here I'm showing you PCI, SOC 2, CIS, and I can dive into these, look at a report, download it as a PDF, give it to my auditor. Like, it's really that simple. I can also look at what this report looked like 3 months ago, download that, and just give my auditor some peace of mind that we are focused on it and reducing the amount of compliance risks. Now, I want to show you what a security analyst would do with this page, right? A security analyst who's interested in active threats in the system would naturally gravitate towards like attacks and risks that I need to do something about. There's an action I need to take from this page. Now, I scroll down and see various, again, demo things that we're doing. So if I look at password utility executed, now, password utility is just a command that you can run on a machine. It's just password, and you ask you for your current password, and you can change your password. Now, if you do that on a regular basis, someone's trying to lock a user out, and typically an IT policy will say someone changes their password more than n times, you get locked out, or a script is trying to crack the user's password. So either way, the security person, the healthy paranoia requires you to investigate these type of issues. So you see, I can see now this is running on a regular basis. I just click into password utility executed, and I can see this is the host on which that execution is taking place. And I can get a full view of what command was executed on that host, what's the process tree associated with it, and context on the environment, who the users are, and all the relevant tags. And guess what? I didn't install an agent to get this to happen. This is the context Datadog already had because this host was monitored by one of our observability products. Now, I'm using one of the pillars of cloud security management, one of the capabilities of cloud workload security, and this is that eBPF agent that gives you this level of detail into process integrity monitoring and file integrity monitoring. Now, as a good security analyst, I don't want others to get alerted by this, so I mark this as being under review. And at this point, I want to collaborate. I want to take this to the DevOps team because I don't really know exactly what this workload or this host is doing. I need to find a different team to help me out with this. Now, I can declare this as an incident from this incident page. And you can see I have various sets of context that's already pre-populated here, right? And I can add various folks on the team. I don't want to page these people, but I know the team members who are involved in this. And even that process tree you saw, that detailed context of who ran this, what commands were running, what the process tree looked like, all of that is packaged together into this incident page, and I can quickly declare this as an incident, right? And that creates this incident timeline that tells you what happened from the time I declared an incident, and this will also automatically create a Slack channel for me. And this Slack channel is one of the 600 integrations we have, but you could use Jira, you could use ServiceNow, or whatever you use internally to collaborate. And each of them is not just a checkbox integration. These are deep integrations that customers actually use. So if I was collaborating with my team and I had some comments that I made on the Slack channel, you can see how that quickly shows up on this detail page without me having to, trying to transfer that context back into the incident page. Now, let's say I mark this incident as being resolved. Once I resolve it, as you saw today, it generates a postmortem. I can go back and kind of analyze what happened. Typically, the best practice in this case is a security person will sit down with the DevOps engineer and make sure that, we kind of dive deeper into what exactly happened so it never happens again. It's a very important part of cloud security that we enable. A lot of this, as I mentioned earlier today, this part can be completely automated through workflows that you heard about today, notifications. So this can happen quite seamlessly. And the idea behind this product is to allow anyone to be able to use it. So if you want to try it right now, you can do that too. It's also meant for investors, not just DevOps people. All right. So as a DevOps engineer, I can also use this page to dive into the new product that I want to showcase. It's called Resource Catalog. Resource Catalog is in beta, so we just launched it. It gives you an overview of your infrastructure, storage, compute, network, and so on, overlaid with risks. Now, this is something that customers typically struggle to understand as their cloud sprawl increases. They want to know who's creating instances, who's creating S3 buckets, and what the security risk is. And to get this working was trivial for me, right? Even within Datadog, we had all this context already. To get to this view was required a lot of hard work, but it was very easy for us to use our platform to get this kind of information. If I was working in a specific team, we are able to identify who those team members are and look at the infrastructure that specific team owns. And if there's an issue, like a database encryption or whatever, I can share those findings with the specific team members, right, through this interface. Or again, as you heard today, Jira, ServiceNow, Slack, whatever you use internally to communicate within your team, we support that. So you can proactively mitigate these kind of issues without involving the security team. And this is what a security ambassador or a cloud ambassador does in a DevOps team. They work within their team to go mitigate issues, and we are trying to enable that. So that's it for the demo slide. Now, if you can flip back to what we learned today, hopefully this was easy for you to follow. Security and DevOps teams can resolve these kind of incidents in minutes because we enable collaboration, right? And we use that deep observability context that makes cloud security manageable, easy to use for everyone, right? And all of this is built on reducing friction and enabling collaboration between those using our products, and customers already love and use this. Second, DevOps teams are able to get visibility into what they need to fix, which they did not have prior to this, and they're able to do it proactively without involving the security team. Now, I showed you one pillar, cloud security management, today. We have advanced our other pillar, application security management, also here at Dash, right? Be it with vulnerability management and the beta of native protection, right? You can check out our comments and demo from the keynote earlier this morning to learn more. With that, I will hand it back to Yuka for the Q&A session.
Fantastic. Thanks, Prashant. Okay, so we are going to do our third and final Q&A session. So Prashant, please take a seat. And joining Prashant will be our SVP of product who leads all of our security offerings, Pierre Bertoine. Okay, on the webcast, please feel free to.
Hey, thanks for doing this. This is Eric Keith, KeyBank Capital Markets. So I wanted to ask two questions. One quick one, just should we think of Resource Manager essentially as a beginning or actually a CMDB, if you will? Is that the right way to think about it? And then two, appreciate DevOps is a much bigger kind of user base within an organization, and they're increasingly doing DevSecOps, and security falls on their shoulders. But do you still find within your customers that security still rests with the security team, like the budget, and it's more of a push onto the DevOps team, and that's really where the budget sits with security folks? And how do you kind of sell into that motion, if you will?
That's a lot of questions. So for the first one, the resource catalog is the central place where you will see all your cloud resources, wherever they are, so on the different cloud accounts that you have. And you'll have the overlay of the security posture, so the potential misconfigurations, the vulnerabilities, or the threats of those assets. We are really focused on the cloud use cases here, so we are not doing any IT Corp stuff. So the example that you had is much more weighted towards the IT Corp use cases. And so that's the foundation of the cloud security management. This is something that you will find in most of the CNAPP solutions. You know, you will always find that source of truth, that repository where you can find all the assets. And so it's not really playing in another category. It's part of the CNAPP category. The second question was about the DevOps budgets, right, on security. So cloud security management is probably one of the most adjacent security categories with the customer base that we have today. So Datadog is a DevOps platform in the first instance, and we're expanding the capabilities of that platform. So if you look at the spectrum of the security maturity, cloud security management is very adjacent to the DevOps customers that we have today. So if you think about vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, most of those topics are under DevOps hands. They are the ones who can mitigate. These are not problems that security teams can actually mitigate. You need to redeploy an instance. You need to change a cloud configuration. That's not an action that a security team could make. So those topics are really between DevOps teams and security teams. And we see many customers who don't really tackle that on a security point of view and have budgets on the DevOps side.
Okay, great. Another in-person question?
Yep.
Okay.
Adam Tindall, Raymond James. Prashant, I just wanted to kind of double click on cloud security, broadly speaking, because a lot of what you're talking about here is, frictionless installation, which sounds really interesting. But it sounds like you need to be an existing Datadog customer to really get the benefits of a lot of this. Do you envision a world where you can kind of decouple and potentially lead with the security platform at some point versus having to be an existing Datadog customer? And maybe lead us into that vision. What would it take to achieve something like that? Thank you.
Yeah. So currently, we are targeting existing Datadog customers, and that is the most easiest way for customers to start using cloud security management. Would we ever target customers who are not existing Datadog customers with cloud security management? Potentially, but we're only getting started in that journey right now, and we will discover a lot of things based on customer feedback and hopefully build that product someday.
So, the same way we often land with one of our 3 observability pillars and then we expand on other use cases, we have the same approach with security. It's very simple for us to extend usage from observability towards security. If you want to start to land new customers on the security side, you will need to build a stronger brand, and that's what we are working on right now, but it will take some time. And we're at the very beginning of that journey today. So the easiest path for us to grow is really to focus on the expand motion right now.
Okay. I'm going to take a question from the webcast audience. There's 2 questions here from Fatima Bulani at Citi. I'm going to just break it apart, actually. First question, what portion of the aggregate telemetry the Datadog platform collects can be repurposed for cyber defense outcomes or use cases? I think from the observability.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much we can leverage from the observability side. What you've seen here in Prashant's demo, all of this would have required probably 10 different tools to be put together and pumped together to get that level of value. So you would have needed a cloud workload security product, maybe an APM product, many different solutions like this. Most of the traffic that you will see today, most of the malicious traffic is not harmful for workloads. It will be generated by bots. So without the observability insights, it's impossible to know if it's relevant, if it's actually harmful for the application or not, and if you need to trigger any remediation, if you need to have any action on the DevOps side. So the observability context will help us reduce the noise, focus on what's important, and prioritize the work that we have here. So it's basically the central piece of the security solution. One of the first problems in that space is noise. And the way to reduce noise is usually to get more data, leverage more data, more depth. So it's not necessarily volume, like you can see in the SIEM space, where people have a lot of volume, a lot of data, but they still struggle to reduce the noise. It's usually by having more depth and more quality in the insights that you gather. So observability is the pillar of everything we build on the security side. It helps us reduce the noise, provide very deep investigation capabilities to our users. And that's also the way we can bridge DevOps with security teams, by bringing a unified shared data platform where we serve the information through different lenses, a DevOps lens or a security lens.
Great. And Fatima, I'm going to restructure your question a bit for our purposes. So this new CSM, Cloud Security Management umbrella, can you talk a little bit about why that's one SKU and then you've got different SKUs for SIM or Cloud SIM and Application Security Management? Why are we structuring it that way?
So we learn every day from our customers, and what we learned is our customers are interested in a broad set of security capabilities. They are not that much interested in a very narrow problem. They want to solve more things than buying a small solution that is focused on one set of challenges. So what we learned was from the DevOps perspective, so the customer base today, if you have a one solution, unified, one dashboard, showing the threats, so the attacks, the attackers, showing the potential vulnerabilities, weaknesses, is a much more compelling story than a very specific product, which would be what, for instance, CWS provide. But the sum of those products make it very compelling.
Great. Okay.
Thank you for hosting us. This is Yifu Li in for Jonathan Brookhaver at Cantor Fitzgerald. Just a small philosophical question. We just want to get the panel's opinion on, we obviously seen the convergence of observability and security happening. What's the benefit, do you think, that starting with observability first and going to security versus the other way around? And the second part of the question is, I guess, why should a customer, purchase the security portion, such as CloudSec, from an observability first provider, versus the other way around?
One of the biggest friction in the security industry is the deployment of technologies to monitor or to actively protect, and they need to be vetted by DevOps teams. So usually you ask DevOps teams to deploy another agent, which could be a loss of performance, which could impact the reliability of their scope, without bringing a lot of upside. So when you sell to security teams and you try to deploy security technologies, you face a lot of friction. We are tackling the problem in the opposite way, and this is very unique to observability vendors. We have a lot of DevOps customers who are using the platform every day for their own purpose, who have deployed those agents at scale on every instances on the infrastructure, and we provide security capabilities in those same agents. So we are basically removing the friction, the number one friction that we have seen in the industry. The second challenge that you have when you approach the problem that way is to provide a continuous experience, starting from the left, starting from the DevOps, towards more security-minded persona, potentially more mature security teams. But this needs to be done in a continuous way. So what you see with Cloud Security Management and what you could see this morning in the keynote is we invest a lot on all the initiatives on the left. Datadog started in production, so we are shined in monitoring cloud instances in production. So basically, we are shifting left towards DevOps teams and providing visibility on these configurations, vulnerabilities, In addition of that, we also provide some remediation capabilities with protection, but the number one topic for us is to bridge our customer base with the security use cases.
Okay, thank you. Another question from the audience. Thank you.
Thanks for doing this. My question is, this is frictionless to install to the installed base. You have unparalleled context in terms of what's going on. So I guess what is the friction that you see in adopting security? I mean, the way you present it, it sounds just the obvious choice. That's my first question. And then my second question is, and this could be totally off base, but when I listen to you talk, it sounds like security is actually like a people problem. In other words, it's like really about just, you have to collaborate, you've got too few people. And so my question here is the collaboration component going to be a much bigger part of this solution than typically you see in observability? So like we saw the co-screen solution, is that going to be perhaps a driver of adoption? Curious on that. Thanks.
So the friction, if there is a friction, or at least the challenge that we're facing is to again connect the DevOps customer base with security solutions. So it's much more about what you provide. To Amit's point earlier, we grew Datadog very organically. So we basically solved a set of problems for our customers, and we started to expand by solving additional problems which were adjacent to the ones we solved earlier. That's exactly the same for security, and one of the risks would be to create a set of products which would be disconnected from our customer base. If you provide security solutions for very mature security teams who are not yet Datadog customers, you will create a disconnection with the customer base, and you will have to bridge that disconnection with humans, go-to-market teams or whatever. And this is not the way we have done things at Datadog before. So it's not a friction, it's a challenge. What is very important for us is to create a continuum between the DevOps solutions that we have today and the security solutions that we're adding right now. So this is really one of the big challenge that we are facing right now, and we are putting a lot of focus, and we are listening to our customers. We have insights on the traction. If there is a pull from our customer base on specific features, what we see is that the cloud security management platform is much more compelling for them than the sum of those smaller features that we shipped earlier.
What are most of your customers using for their cloud security ahead of adopting your product suite? Or what are they doing, if anything?
What's your question exactly? What's the entry point, right?
Well, less entry point, but what products are you typically replacing some type of cloud security suite when you come in and sell your upsell product in the security space broadly? Or have people just not secured their cloud or have anything actively monitoring it?
So we don't face a lot of competition right now coming from that DevOps angle, but competition is real, and CNAPP is a very dynamic security category. What we see regularly are modern security companies like Lacework, Wiz, Orca. So these are like modern security vendors offering usually like agentless CNAPP solutions. These are the ones that we see on a regular basis. It's not really something that we face on every deal. The more traditional vendors would be Palo Alto with Prisma Cloud. CrowdStrike has also invested a lot on that front. So these would be the competitors that we see on a regular basis.
No, sure, Pierre. I did a bad job at my question. Do you typically have one of those competitors in place already when you're selling your suite, or is it usually a greenfield?
No, it's greenfield. It's greenfield most of the time. We rarely replace at that point.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Another question, please.
Yeah, hi. Can you maybe just double click on some of the things that you're doing to get the more traditional security folks to be comfortable with adopting your security tools instead of going with the traditional security vendor?
In terms of roadmap, you mean?
Just in general, maybe being comfortable with the Datadog brand from a security perspective instead of going with a Palo Alto.
No, I think it's a question of depth. You have the breadth, and I think it's very important for us to provide that cloud security management solution. If you want to address more mature security teams, usually they have a lot of requests on depth, the way you are going to mitigate specific actions, automate. So these are the things that we are working on. You obviously have a dimension around a brand, establishing a security brand. But before investing there, we want to make sure that we can support more maturity on that front.
Okay, great. Another question, please.
You guys have, and I know you spoke about Watchdog AI, right? And I'm curious, you're able to tap into these 600 plus data sources you talk about. Could you help us think about Watchdog AI maybe more broadly? Is it one cohesive AI model, or is it a number of separate different AI models under the Watchdog umbrella? And then the follow-up is all that data that you're ingesting, is that all being piped through the security AI model to, I'm trying to think about how you guys prove that efficacy if we're talking about the volume of data, and that's what differentiates you guys.
So we have a lot to do on the AI front. The reason is we have a lot of data and we can start to resurface more anomalies, so the unknowns. What we do right now is really leverage the observability context that we have to provide continuous end-to-end experiences, collaboration, enable that collaboration, and so on. So we don't invest right now massively in AI on the security front, but there would be a lot of different opportunities for us to resurface what we don't know yet. We already have a lot of work to do to resurface what can be done from the existing data set.
Okay, let's take one more question.
The last question. On the topic of what gives Datadog the license to move into security and win in security, you've had a number of slides that spoke to all the data that's relevant. On the endpoint side, which seems like a pretty crucial data source in terms of doing the correlation across all the possible threat vectors, what's the strategy around endpoint? It doesn't sound like you're going into endpoint security, but is that a partnership thing? How do you get access to that data to drive that improved threat detection, vulnerability scanning, that type of posture?
So you can see the portfolio. We have those three products. So application security management. So at the applicative level, we have the cloud security management at the cloud and infrastructure level, and we have the cloud team. We really focused, and we still do, on cloud use cases, and we are not that much into IT corp use cases, endpoints, and so on. Still, we have a lot of different integrations. So the easiest way for us to start to correlate those different activities is to go through integrations and to basically use the cloud team. If you want to correlate some EDR activity with cloud security activity, our cloud team is probably the easiest way to do that. But usually, you will use one of the EDR, XDR type of integration to perform that.
Okay, and with that, we are going to conclude our investor meeting. Thank you all so much for